me see. Does it
Yeah,
is
there
it
we go.
showing up correctly?
It's just all my hijinks. It's terrible.
What
No,
were you recording,
it
Cote?
says upcoming.
What were you doing? Were you doing another which
Well,
podcast? Which one of your podcasts were you doing?
I was trying to record practicing a presentation, because why not? It's nice to have an audience. But uh my 3-year-old like wanted to come into the office, and so Kim came and got her and locked the door, and then she came up to one of my doors and started banging on it and yelling, and I just like lost my concentration. So
Oh.
I went and had lunch.
Right. All right. Well,
Lovely.
we'll work on the. I don't know. I thought it was possible to just have your own little session. So I don't know. I don't know why that's.
Well, it might be, but I need to set up. I tried to set up an account for myself, and then I sent an invite. And then
Mhm.
every time I clicked on the invite thing, even when I was in like the ghost browser, so I wasn't logged in as the admin person, like it just like didn't work.
Okay.
So
I think I'd sent you one. Maybe I don't know if you have 2 different emails going in there. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to look at that afterwards.
Well, I resent it to myself and copied the link out, and
Still didn't
I
work.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out.
I'll just not do that again. That's like a DevOps report accelerate category, right? The way to solve the problem is to not do it again.
The root cause was me.
The root cause was me, and I've decided not to do anything else. That seems, seems like
I mean,
possible.
it's just like, hey, all you engineer dummies, here's an idea. When you find the root cause, don't do it again. Problem solved. That's it.
I like it. All right, you guys. I don't know, Kate, have you seen these topics?
Well,
Good with any of these? Not good.
I mean, they look fine.
I wasn't sure. Do you guys want to do? Did you want to do anything on scale? Did you guys? Did you run that to the end, or
Man, a good time was had by all.
We could talk about the Sheraton.
You guys can
The what?
recap that if you want.
The Sheraton.
Oh, I didn't say the Sheraton.
I know, but I could. I've got my Sheridan theory. Maybe I can ump with that. And then let's see.
Love to hear about the Sheridan.
I don't know. Do you guys
know a
want to
little
say
bit
anything
about
on SVB, or has that been pounded to death?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't have
What's
anything
to say. Yeah, I mean,
okay. Take that out.
There were lots of folks who were, potentially going to have a bad day, self-included.
Have we talked about repatriation stuff? I see it in here, but have we talked about that before?
We talk about repatriation every chance we get.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and then we could talk about VR headsets. That looks like fun.
Really? VR headsets?
I mean, I'm looking at what we have, Matt Ray. It looks like it might be fun to talk
I thought,
about.
the leaderboard stuff, Matt, you posted it. I put that in
there.
The US cost leaderboard. I think I don't know if you have any hot takes on that one, man. I thought it was pretty cool.
I don't think it's hot takes, but it's fun to talk about.
Let me look that up. I haven't named that one because I need to look at it.
And I thought, you also posted this link, Matt, or at least I think you're the one who did. I thought it was cool. I thought the printer thing was cool, but I thought the use of the ChatGPT in the printer thing is interesting to talk about because it's like, is that where we're going? Yeah. It's like computers.
We are. Yes,
I think
we
that's
can talk about that. We should
talk
about that because we are on the verge of a horrible, horrible dystopian future.
Then you got the whole Docker stuff, right? So I think it's good. Matt's always good for some dystopian, and then you got the Docker. I don't know, Matt, if you've been following that, the whole deleting open source organizations, and Docker had a bad week, and here Microsoft is the savior about their open source program offices. Cats sleeping with dogs. Everything is different. The enemy is now the good side. I don't know if that's interesting to talk about.
Now this cost leaderboard. This is what people spend the most money on, ranked.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
With this company Vantage. So
sure. So people need compute and databases.
I don't know.
Cool.
What does Vantage do?
Yep. Vantage. Isn't that the name of a sportswear brand?
They are they're a cloud platform management.
All right. Well, I can do something with that, especially now that well, not you, but let me write.
They say they've got $1 billion in tracked infrastructure.
And now there are like about 1 billion links in there too, because I just picked out stuff I thought was relevant, but because we had a pretty big backlog, so I don't know.
We haven't done a show in forever.
Yeah, so if there's something you thought you wanted to talk about, it's probably a link in there somewhere. A lot of stuff about layoffs, Twitch CEO, just all kinds of crazy stuff in this thing.
I think I got
WebAssembly. There's lots. Your old boss has a takes on WebAssembly there. If you're interested in that one.
Who's old boss?
Cotes, Richard Sorter.
Oh yeah, Soroter.
You work for him? Did you not? Am I saying that wrong?
No, I didn't work directly for him, but yes, he was over our stuff. But I can go with stuff we have here.
Okay. All right. Just we do have one ad swap, so just one break at the beginning, and that's it.
Sounds good.
Man, this is a lot of links.
Let me shut down this thing over. Oh, is that already?
I don't want to talk about Buffalo Wild Wings.
What? I don't know what that means.
Oh,
sorry. I'm just resizing the window here.
As well, you should.
Oh, that's nice. Tasty. Okay. There we go. Well, I'm sure everyone heard our lovely interview last week. I have to say, now, I'm a little biased, but I feel like the audio came out a lot better than I thought it would. Because this is class. I went in there and I had the Zoom H big recorder.
Yeah.
And then I had 2 lavalier mics, and I don't know. Well, I know how it happened. I just didn't spend enough time to plan ahead of time. But I didn't realize. I was thinking what happened is. Do you ever get like a pair of headphones and they have that you got your normal microphone jack, and then they ship you one of these like big thick microphone jacks, right? So that you can a jack that you can plug the tiny jack into the big jack.
Yeah. The old style ones. Yep.
Now you can probably guess that I am going to put that on my shit list of things that don't need to exist anymore, right?
The big ones. The big ones.
Like
they need to go.
Yeah, along with the 49 other types of screwdrivers, just like we don't need them. Let's just keep the Phillips. Let's go, right? Anyways, so I actually did have 3 lavalier mics, right, that I thought we were going to hook up, but you can only plug like 2 of them, 2 of the ones that I had, into the recorder that I had. So I brought that little headphone jack thing, but the problem with the headphone jack thing is it actually has like this casing that comes out of the top, and then you've got to screw your smaller jack into it, which I don't really know what's up with that. It just didn't work out. I should have tested it out. However, I think the audio quality was fine. It's a little boomy. I think Matt Ray's voice could have been louder. But it wasn't your fault.
Everybody
was good. I was, as someone who's tried remote recording, I feel like it's always very difficult. But you even got some questions in there, and you can actually hear. You can mostly hear the questions. Obviously, the true pro tip would be like have the microphone for the audience, which is like which is a whole nother level of difficulty, rarely seen in remote recording.
Yeah, but I think next time it'll work out. But I only bring that up as distracting context. Now, over the years, I've been developing this theory. I stay at Marriott's, and I've developed this theory that Sheratons are always pieces of shits. And I stayed at a Sheraton. And I have to say, it wasn't that bad. But it did fit my theory that I think when they're down there at Marriott HQ in Marriotttville, Virginia, or wherever they're based. Yeah. I have no idea. They're going through renovations they want to do and brands. And I think the Sheraton person just stopped showing up to the meetings, and just they're just off doing stuff, doing some work-life balance or something or another. Because the Sheratons are always just I feel like they're just a little bit behind. At least it's the North American Sheraton person. I think the EMEA Sheraton person is always on the Zoom call. Doesn't matter what time it is, they're on there. They're making sure they get the
now what's
in North America they don't care.
So in the Marriott tier of hotels, is there, so there's Courtyard Marriott, there's Sheraton, there's Marriott, What?
Yeah, that's right.
There's JW Marriott.
That's right.
So is like Sheraton.
You got a Westin.
They own Westin too.
Yeah, and then you got Residence Inn. Marriott needs to like take care of its shit. They've got like 15 different brands.
Well,
and then also Moxie.
Wow. Okay, so they're slapping all these different brands together. Is like Sheraton, like everything gets eventually relegated to Sheraton, or do they eventually turn into like Motel 6s or something?
That's a good theory. It's sort of like the catch-all brand when they need to trickle down. They're like, oh, we got to take this sign for you. We're going to use it up the street. So we're going to go back to the warehouse.
Or like, this Westin caught on fire and we closed off the rooms, but didn't feel like getting rid of the painting over the damage. We'll call it a Sheraton.
Yeah. We had 3 suicides in the same room in 1 week, so we got to investigate.
Wow. I got dark.
I mean, that would be some bad hotel juju or whatever, right? I don't think that would be the hotel manager might want to look into that, see what's going on. I mean, it wasn't that bad. This is my point. Is like I've been in much worse Sheratons, but this one, is a little run down. So I think and also Renaissance, there's another.
Well, why didn't you stay at the Westin? There was one like a block away.
Well, I
mean, if you've got like brand loyalty, like I made the mistake of just like, the conference said, this is our hotel. I booked it. I didn't really think, I'm maximizing my points, but you did. And like, if you looked on the map, there were all the choices were there. And so
I think I didn't spend a lot of time doing it. And actually it was a good choice because it was like, I think maybe it was the hotel closest to the conference center.
Oh yes, it was definitely the closest.
Like it was basically like you could go to the door of the Sheraton, and like with my meek skills, you could probably throw a baseball and hit the conference center.
If you're up high enough, sure.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hit the wall of it, not like the glass or anything, but
yes,
right there.
Yes, you might hit Ken Thompson.
So that I still like. I still think I'm going to try to avoid the Sheratons.
Cool story. But other than the Sheraton,
I think it's good. We'll leave it. We'll drop it there at the cool story. I think a good end. Yep. A good end to that story.
So much for talking about scale.
Oh yeah, we could have done that.
What did you say? You said a good. What was the final thing you just said, Matt? You said a good story.
Good story.
All right, we'll end on that one. So, all right.
Yeah.
All right, man. Whenever you're ready.
And then also, I think it should be said that Scale, the conference, and DevOps Days LA was pretty good. I think that we've always heard that those conferences are good, and I've never actually been to them, but they were nice. I think the single track DevOps Days 1 day thing, DevOps Day, I kind of like that. You get it all in at one time. And also from the business side, there were a lot of like tables at the DevOps Day is there. Many people showed up for that, so the sponsorship worked out well. And then lots of attendees there at Scale. The you were there on the show floor.
I was. I had my own booth all to myself.
How did that go? Did you get a lot of foot traffic? Did you gather some leads? Get some PRs?
Some leads. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of discussing the leads and the cost of sponsoring. As a vendor, you want to maximize like quality leads and be able to say like, we spent, X dollars and, we're expecting a return of Y dollars. And I think we're expecting a better return than what we spent. I mean, it was a good conference. I think my expectations were a little higher because last time I went to Scale, it was by the airport. So all the like game companies and Department of Defense contractors were all there.
Oh yeah.
And so like, then it was just, great for business. If your business is, is commercial open source for, large, people who spend a lot of money. So it's
well, how many those of us not there, like paint the scene, like how many attendees, like was it like hundreds, thousands?
I think they said over 3,000 not vendors, but over 3,000 attendees.
Okay, it's a pretty big show.
Yeah, it's a large show. And a lot of great talks. I mean, everything I saw, I enjoyed, even Kote's talk, and I gave a talk, and I had a lot better feedback during the session than I was expecting. So I definitely enjoyed it, and so it's a very solid conference. It's that's why we go.
Yeah, I think, and I haven't gotten checked in a couple of days, but they're getting the videos for the conferences up. So you can go watch them. So it was nice. Hopefully I'll be able to go again next time. I guess that would be next year. Is how that works. If it's annual, it would be fun. Well, and so okay, so I was catching up on the speaking of the world of open source. And I need one of you two to update me on like the latest like Docker changing business model thing, because it looks like I was reading our old friend Matt Assay, and it looks like maybe there was some potential thing going on, but then Matt is like, "Whoa, hold on, everything's actually cool." Like this plan that was free, and a bunch of people were using it, and there was 1.7% of people who got upset when we turned off this free plan. And suggested that they need to just apply to our open source program. And so, the details are fun.
That's a funny number, right? They're like, oh, it's only 1.7. And then like the maintainer Curl was like, we do 5 billion downloads. It's like, yeah. And, Curl's used by everything. And, he's open source, but like he has a consulting business and he's just like, his point was like, this feels a little like a bait and switch where, curl is a foundation to a lot of open source, that XKCD of the one guy in Nebraska maintaining something that, everything's built on top of, that's curl. Right. And, he's right. If he doesn't spend the money, someone will namespace squat it and 5 billion people will accidentally download, curl for, Bitcoin or whatever. So yeah, it's,
although I thought in that article that Matt Assay wrote, like he had a quote that said, I guess from the CEO of Doctor, said that it was very easy and they would quote wave you in. So I don't know. I mean, it's like, I wasn't,
I think it was a messaging problem.
Yeah, good.
I think the problem was they just kind of came out and said, start paying. And instead they were like, they could have eased people in the conversation, maybe reached out to, the worst offenders, which I'm sure curl is probably, 1A. And they probably,
it's worth like reading this quote. So it says, here it is. This is the CEO of Doctor says, quote, "You don't have to do anything with your account. All you have to do is apply. And if you apply, then we're just going to bless you, wave you in. You're good." So, and I guess we're talking about applying to the sponsored open source program. So I don't know. I mean, there is like, that message is definitely different than like what people took from it. So I don't know. That whole part of it was like, well, if it's this easy, then like, why do I even have to wave you in if it's that easy? So I don't know.
Right. It was just a messaging problem. Like they didn't lead with, hey, we're doing this and it's going to be easy for you to move. They were just like, we're doing this. And like, why are you doing this? Or, whatever. And like, I use Docker.io for hosting my stuff, very small amount of content. I just went and looked and was like, didn't tell me I was going to change anything. I was like, I'm just going to wait and see what happens for my stuff. Like, if you're,
there are other places. I mean, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, right? Obviously there's other places. You can
so many places,
right? So it is, I don't, my take on it was a little, maybe slightly different, was like, Docker doesn't want to do this anymore. Now is the time for you to go find some other place to host it. That's kind of what I took from it.
Yeah. Again, just a messaging thing. They needed to ease people into it. They needed to educate. It was a messaging problem.
I don't know. I heard, I've seen a lot of people write that. I guess my reading between the lines is this. It's like, I actually don't think it is a messaging problem. I think what it is like Docker doesn't want to do this anymore. And they want everyone to take their projects elsewhere, right? That's, I think, what they want to do. They just, and I get it, right? Like they're trying to make money. This is probably just a distraction. It doesn't make them any money. It doesn't want.
Well, then what you do?
Flip it around and just say, like, I think it would be like Like if they just come out and said like, we cannot afford doing this anymore, it doesn't align with us, we suggest you go to these places to host these projects.
Then put it in like a new tier. You know, the new free tier has caps of, you know, X terabytes a month or whatever, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, the curl guy's like, well, I can be there, but you know, he's still gonna complain. But you know, I mean, just
that would be okay, right? I think it's my whole point. It's like if they don't want to do it, and that's kind of my read between lines. If this is not what they want to do, then just be upfront with that and say like, don't want to do this. Go somewhere else and just like and I get it. Like they need to make money. This is not what they want to do. So I think it's like this middle thing about like, we'll wave you in. It's free. It's not free. It's like, no, I mean, I really kind of took from it. Like they don't want to do this. And I get it. Like I totally like, I mean, their side of it is probably like, we're paying for a bunch of stuff that is not going to lead to any revenue. And we have to be focused on revenue. So go to like GitHub or something else to host these images, which is fine. You know,
go to some other charitable organization,
right? And just live with the consequences, and just be like, okay, people are mad. I'm sorry, people are mad. It's just like that's how it goes.
I'm sorry, you're mad.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes it just like sometimes I think companies are just so afraid to say like what they want, right? It's just like Docker, especially more than any company. I mean, they have gone from like absolute almost near death to like rising from the ashes to being like, okay, like we got to make money. We can't afford this. I know you're going to be mad about it, but like this is what we think is best to give us a chance to succeed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I sometimes, you know, working in open source, you kind of got to just step back and be like, of course, everybody wants everything for free. But you know, the other day, I was looking at an issue, and the guy was like, "Well, why don't you just make your version of it open source?" I'm like, it's not up to me. You know, some people over there are trying to run a business. I'm over here in open source land. You know, we don't get to just give everything away. You know,
agreed. And
I like that part of your talk you gave at Scale, Matt Ray, where people would ask questions of things and you'd be like, that is a pretty awesome feature that is available in the commercial product, but we would like to have it in the open source project if anyone would like to help contribute to it.
Exactly.
And it was that whole interchange was a good little is it microcosm of the open source world, where like you got a cool, interesting thing, and like you just got to like get other people to help out and contribute to it. If there's no money involved with it, which made sense.
I feel like I've been watching Matt give this answer for like 20 plus years now, like for obviously different products, like all different products. I mean, I've seen some versions. So I think there is something like, hey, listen, if it's free, and you know, like at some point, someone is probably going to make some change to it. Like I don't know what else to tell people. It's like I know it's upsetting, and I know it's not what you want, but like it is probably going to change on you, and it's like, you know, you just have to deal with it when it happens.
Well, and even if it is free, it's not good enough. Yeah.
Maybe they would be a good talk for Scale next year. I don't know what it's going to be called, but it's basically, there's two sides of it. One is going to be like strategizing for when you have to pay for things, right? And it's sort of like you've been relying on the whatever,
like
the largesse of like the computer world, where they just spend money on stuff and they don't have to care. So like, you know, here's how to do an audit of your project to make sure that it's profit proof.
It's
right?
like
that when companies
open
start
source
wanting to make
couch
profits,
surfing, right? You know, it's like I got to get the free resources. I you know, where am I going to get it? And you could give this talk from both sides. You could be like, as a vendor, here's how you gently ask your freeloaders to get off.
Sure, right. And so that's good. Then you have that. So you have the first part where it's like, I don't know anything about curl, but I'll use it since you brought it. I mean, I know what curl is. I'm not that disconnected from the youth today. But like, you know, if you have a project like curl and it's got like your 50 bazillion downloads, then, you know, when you do the audit, you'd be like, hey, you're not paying for that. So that needs to go on your big risk board. And like, you got to consider every year, like, I know you're like, you know, Docker's great and awesome, but like, what if, right? Like, and then, so what's going to be your bug out plan if this doesn't work? Then I hadn't thought of this part, but I think you're right, Brandon. You got to have the second part, which is like, vendors, you're the ones who are doing this probably because you need to, or whatever. Right. And then I think the third one is you want to just have more of an open conversation and since it's a presentation, it's conversation with yourself, where you're like,
I've got the mic now. I'm presenting with myself.
Yeah. So you would be like, in 1997, the Oracle database shipped running on Linux. So let's just use that as a starting point for how long we've had. And then, as always, I don't like to do math in public, but you want to be like, so it's been like 30 years. Like, what's going on here? Like, why are we so shocked about, money getting involved in open source and messing around with stuff? Maybe we need to have a more pragmatic view of stuff. And then maybe you can escape before the audience.
No, I like that. Now, in fairness, I'll just take the other side, just because I always want to argue the same points of or 2 points of the same position. That way, I'm always right in one way. But somebody brought this up in the Software Defined Talk Slack, and it's just like, well, and I don't know that, and Matt, you probably have a better take here. It's like people kind of felt like, well, Docker has often made lots of promises to the open source community, and like people feel like they haven't lived up to it. So there's a little bit of like, people feel like, well, you say this, and I think this is on the vendor side. I mean, it's kind of the same talk. It's like, always be clear. And I think, Matt, I think your old boss, over at Chef, right, is good about this. You got to be clear up front from day one that like, we have to make money. We definitely are going to make money. We're going to make some decisions that help us make money. So if you make lots of promises and you're like, oh, it's all unicorns and rainbows, don't ever worry, and then you start making changes, that will irritate people. So that's probably on both sides of that aisle is probably, better communication. It's like one, being clear that like we are going to make money and we're going to try to do things to make money. So that may inflict on some of the open source things. So we're not going to overpromise, and vice versa. As somebody that's using this, is to understand like, yes, I'm going to take advantage of it, but it may change. So that's like, I don't know, it's hard for both sides to, if you will, accept that position. I think.
I think that's part of the what word am I looking for? We're like it's not high availability. It's part of your disaster recovery strategy. Right. Where like you want to say like, so I've got 50 bazillion downloads I'm not paying for here. Is the company that is paying for this, do they have a business model?
Yep.
Right. And like, so you want to make sure that the people who you're not paying are getting paid by some other way, and that they're clear about the way that they're
business continuity, personal open source continuity, yes. Open source software continuity. What will I do when the free train at this company goes down? What will I do? And I think curl's a good example. It's like, I don't know. In some ways, I think whoever that maintainer is, like, he should call the bluff. Be like, okay, no one's going to host it. I'm just taking it all down. I bet you suddenly, like, there will be some emails in where people will be like, hey, I have an idea for you. I've got some money for you. Like,
here's $420. Yeah.
Somewhere someone would suddenly step in and be like, oh, we can fix this for you.
Well, I mean, the right outcome is for somebody like, GitHub or somebody else to make a big deal of moving it to their hosting, right? Yeah. Don't donate, $400 to, keep Docker, because eventually Docker's be like, we still hate this.
This still doesn't make us any money, right?
I mean, can't you just
some enterprise marketing manager should be on that, right? Like, yeah, get on there, write a blog post, like promise like whatever, 10 years of free hosting, like what, something along those lines. That would probably get a lot of goodwill and probably get a lot of traffic.
Now, Brandon, what's that meeting going to look like? Like, what do we got going here? Because that is like, I mean, I like your idea, but you're suggesting something that can't be put into a spreadsheet. Is there a way you can track that goodwill, or like, what are we going to do there?
Because you can't. Probably this case, you just have to like go to an executive that you think has kind of like, I don't know, either some desire or some kind of connection to the larger community. And you're going to have to convince that executive to be like, hey, we're going to give this project 10 years of goodwill, and we're going to write a big blog post, and we're going to like get some free publicity. And we think it's going to return. We're going to get this kind of earned media out of it. And it's a good idea, and we should do it. So, and that executive will say yes or no. But as soon as you go to a meeting, what you were just talking about, as soon as we get into a meeting, people are like, ooh, wait a minute. So-and-so from ops doesn't want to do it. It's going to cost too much. And then they're going to be like, have you seen the downloads? This is 5 billion. Like, what's this going to cost us? And then legal is going to be coming up. Like, what do you mean? We don't own this and we're hosting it. And are we endorsing it? So that as soon as the meeting starts, the project is killed. But still, I think someone out there, there's a company out there that's probably smart enough, that has probably some kind of founder that's sort of inside open source, that could probably see through all that and be like, I'm gonna do some founder magic. I'm gonna be like, we're doing that.
Well, I think founder magic is a good way to get out of meetings. I think also what I want to propose in our meeting here is that we just skip a year of sponsoring, like, the Red Bull contest, and that might pay for 10 years of curl downloads.
No doubt.
And we'll be fine. Like, and really, if we want to take more on, we could maybe just skip a year of F1 sponsorship, and we could.
Well, that's going to give you many years, like decades and decades.
So we could bring on some other projects to do that, and that probably is a good. Someone should do that. That'd be fun. But boy, those meetings, they're going to be rough. Now, there was also a survey. Now, I would like to more time reading the survey, because as I was rereading it, I was realizing that it's a little confusing, but it's from Stack Overflow. They've got this review of like I think they asked their developer survey base like what they thought about various types of technology categories. They thought they were reliable or proven, or like, what people think, what the developers thought people will be using next. And I had two, looking at the top and the bottom here. One of them is, it seems like, given what we were just saying about open source, it's like to pick out one. It's hard to pick a number from here, but when if I were to ask a cohort, is that right? Cohort, a group of developers, if they thought open source was proven, I would think that somewhere between like 98 and 137% of them would say yes, it's proven. But really, when you look in here, it's more like maybe like 70% or something. There's a whole bunch of like undecided people who are neutral. They don't know if it's like proven or not. And so it does show that like as much as we all might be living and enthusiastic about the open source world, there's some people there who won't just like give it an A+, which is a kind of always an odd result.
Well, I mean, this isn't like a zero. I mean, it is a 0 to 10, but it's one of those things that, you kind of got to put it on a curve. I mean, open source is the highest ranked of all of them.
Oh, I like where you're going with this. This is the JP view of technology, which is like all software is crap.
Exactly. Right. I mean,
and so this one is just less crap than the other.
Less
crap.
Well, definitely. I mean, if you look at the other things, open source, it's ahead of cloud computing. And, listeners of the show might know we're mostly positive of cloud computing, but we still talk about repatriation from day to day, right?
This is true. And to be fair, if you do, there's one sentiment for experimental to proven technologies. I find these kind of confusing, especially since I didn't read them in detail, to be clear. But if you look, there's only 4% of respondents who thought open source was emergent, right? There's a good 44% who think it's proven. Exactly. So it's actually pretty good. Now, on the other hand, like if you look at our old friend low code, no code, that's at the bottom of the list of things. Well, and what I think there's the most relevant one there, and this is a fun thing. Which of these technologies do you believe is going to be the next one everyone will use? That's a fun question. And low code, no code was 4%. However, things are pretty crazy. You know what's right above that at 5%? Blockchain. So obviously that one has been passed over there.
Yeah.
And then 33% of people they think AI assisted technologies is the one that everyone will be using soon, which that seems to track with what's going on.
And for those listening along, we'll make sure these are the show art so you can kind of see the different graphs in there. So I think it's clear. I think to kind of go back one, it is. I like the idea that like everything, the majority of people believe are passive on everything, which is I think funny, right? That's
true as
maybe
well.
That's the biggest takeaway is that like passive, like I guess it's some kind of equivalent of like if I'm not complaining, I'm happy, right? Like that's so. If you add passive, if you kind of take that's a positive sentiment, which I realize is not what they're saying. It's like 52% are open source are passive, and another 44 are, if you will, what proven. And so it just leaves 4% as dissenting. But I don't know. So maybe in the end, it's just like everyone's busy. Most people are just, I don't want to. question.
And then even more positive, it's that 4% isn't even dissenting. It's just that it's experimental at the moment. We're not quite sure. But I like your categories. You do need the 3 categories, and maybe next survey they can just say like category 1, I don't like it, right? And then category the second one, I'm going to rename your category a little bit. The answer will be it's fine.
Yeah. And then the third it should be it's fine. It happened to me. Meh.
Yeah. And then the third one will be like it's great, right? And so you can get a sentiment of like just
most people are going to just be like
steady state.
This change in code stuff happened to me. I move on and keep working.
Yeah, I don't know, Coach. I don't know how much work you've done in experimental research survey methodologies, but like I would just like to co-sign and endorse your idea that like on every survey there should be a button that said it's fine. Like, because that's most of the time that's what I'm looking for. Like a lot, and for anyone that has ever read a survey where I've responded, like 3 is usually neutral, and I read that as it's fine. That's what, like when I hit 3, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's fine. I don't really like have anything.
Like you're the bane of NPS everywhere. They're like,
I know, that's what I always feel.
It's like 3. So
now that I know enough about NPS, I'm like, well, if I don't give these people an 8, I'm kind of screwing them, because 7 and below is like, 8 is it's fine. That's, you kind of have to, that's a little clue. It's like 1 to 10. If people are going to be rated on the NPS score, give them an 8 at least. Otherwise, 1 through 7 are just, are essentially getting them in trouble. So that's a little like, behind the scenes on NPS scores.
Yeah. And then it would seem like with any rating like that, and maybe I don't know NPS well enough. It's a little, it always seems like there's some complicated step, but it seems like also, I don't know what you call this kind of thing, but you're interested in how many ratings do we have between 8 and 9 that are 8 and 9s, because people who are rating at 10, they're just insane, right? Like, I don't
nobody's that enthusiastic. Yes.
Yeah, like if you're doing NPS for like your local like internet provider, like no one is going to be like
clearly,
oh my God.
Clearly their mom did the survey and they're like internet provider 10. Go son.
Right. Like no one's going to be like, I don't know, attend my own funeral or enjoy this telco. I choose telco. Well, I guess they would by attend their own funeral. I messed that one up. But
fine.
Like attend a child's graduation or just bask in the glory of this telco provider. Like it's just
it's actually a great question in general. The whole range is crazy. Like anyone that gives a 10 is probably crazy, but if you give somebody a 1, like that really is like, I want to come to your house. Grand. I want to fire you. I want to take everything away from you. Like giving someone a 1 on an NPS is like that is going to so bring down the average.
It needs to have like when you click on a little pop-up that says,
like, are you sure you want to
in
do
your
this?
hands?
Yeah, it's like, are you sure you want to fire the people behind this? Like, that is literally what you're doing. So I think when I see that's just like,
I'm not a math stats person, as I say all the time, at least once a week. But like, I feel like you don't even do an average. You just see where the big clusters are on the number, and you want your cluster to be more in the 8 and 9 range, right? And it's just because again, the people who rate a 1, they're insane in the other direction. It's just like, has anyone actually had
NPS? NPS is probably the most widely misused statistic out there, just because it's so popular. And it's like, because like really most of the time in the meetings, people are just looking at the raw statistics, and there's not the raw, sorry, the kind of the, if you will, calculated statistics. And it's just like, there's no explaining, like, if you are below an 8, you are in serious trouble. You can't explain it like, well, like these people gave, like 3 people gave us a 1 and it really messed things up, and we really do have a lot. It's like, no, it's over. Like once you kind of get to below an 8, you are putting together the action plan that is either going to make NPS go up, which in itself is funny, right? Because you're like, well, how are we going to make NPS go up? Well, that's kind of like what the entire organization has to do.
More fans.
Or you need to just update your resume. I just think update your resume. If your NPS score is less than 8, that means you should work on your resume. Don't worry about updating NPS. Go work on your resume.
Yeah, so we need to come up with a new one incorporating it. We'll call it like the fine scale. And I think we're going to have gradients of like, it's fine, and then like pretty fine. I don't know. I guess pretty fine is before it's fine, right?
It's fine, pretty fine, and just fine.
And then we need just fine. So you got that's good. That's good. You've got it's fine, and then just fine. Like I think maybe just fine is right between pretty fine and it's fine. Then really like you know, there could be like a terrible and a great, but like that doesn't mean anything. Those people are
super
crazy. Like,
Yeah.
and then we'll release an annual thing called the Fine Companies Index, and we could be like they're a 2024 fine company.
Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, that company finer than all the others.
Honestly, that seems perfect with enterprise software. Like if someone's like, hey, we just run the award, everyone rated us just fine. I mean, that would be like, I'd put that on, like, that's what you want as an enterprise software vendor. You're like, yep, people think we're just fine. That might as well be, you know, it won't get any better than that.
Yes. That's how I like my enterprise software. It's fine.
Just fine. You do. You don't want to be surprised by it. You don't want it to be great. You're like, it's just fine. It works. It's just fine.
That's like, yeah, that's why we don't have a great rating, is because no one ever achieves that.
I mean, so I posted in Slack this Brother printer review, and literally the headline of the review is best printer of 2023. Just buy this Brother laser printer. Everyone has. It's fine.
Fantastic. And it was everyone perfect. Agreed. It was like the most fantastic review of a printer ever. And everyone is like, yeah, totally agree. In fact, most of the people in Software Defined Talk that Slack that responded have the printer. They're like,
yeah, or you know, they have just slightly different models, but the whole point is like, it's a laser printer. Nobody's going to give any laser printer ever a 10.
Well, I was gonna say, and following on with the features people like about it, this is what they said was either like, I've never bought toner for it, or this was the other one in the it's fine category. It's like the toner light needs toner light has been on for 3 years, but I've never changed it and it still works. It's fine.
Because it's fine.
That's it. Like that's the entire. Think about all the things that are in the printer: the wireless, the duplex, and like all anyone can talk about is the toner is just fine. That's all anyone cared about.
Yep, it works.
It's fine.
It's fine.
And then, you know, that's true. If you were to ask me, so I do like my HP laser printer, but every you know, if I don't give it enough attention for a couple of months, I have to just like drop it from the OS configure and add it back in. And so my rating of that would be like, well, it's pretty fine.
It's okay.
I wouldn't say it's fine. It's pretty good.
It's okay. I mean, but the thing about the Brother printers is they're just like, you forget about them because they just work for years and years and years. And you know, next time anyone asks you what kind of printer you have, you're like, oh, you should totally get a Brother. They're great. They're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's another thing we listen. I mean, the printers are good. Another thing we listen for is if someone says, well, I print things every day and I don't really even know what I have. Like, then that kind of adds you bonus.
Oh yeah. So. Yeah. Well, that's like my wife describing, you know, a car. She's like, it's white, right? It's like, you know.
Now in that review, I think not in a deceitful way, but I also like, speaking of things that are not just fine, when you know, you've got a list of reviews. There was this funny part in the review where he was like, look, I think it was a he. The person was like, it's fine, just buy it. I don't really need to say anything else. However, for the sake of Google, I now need 10 paragraphs talking about this. So I asked ChatGPT to do it for me. And
so good.
I think that was a brilliant move right there.
Well, especially how transparent they were.
He actually, in the thing, he says, don't read it. He's like, I didn't even read this. It was like, he says it right in it, which was fantastic. It was like, this is literally just text for another algorithm to read, to rank it highly. It has no human being will be involved. So I thought that was very funny about, like, literally we have ChatGPT creating text to be read by another AI algorithm, with no human being is really involved at all, for the human being to just read the one paragraph at the top. So I don't know if this is progress or what, but it certainly is a weird sign of things to come.
Oh, it's like algorithm chaff.
Exactly. I mean, this is where we're going to get to where, I mean, as a human, you're going to have to be like, oh, when do I stop reading this? Right. And so we're going to end up with like AIs generating content, and we're going to have to get something AI to parse the AI generated content to like whittle it down to the actual stuff we care about. Right. It's totally dystopian because, you know, those of us who are good with technology, like, will say, well, I'm not going to read that, you know, just give me the summary. And, you know, other people are just going to be like, why is the internet so terrible?
Well, I think it's a very interesting problem for Google because so much of it has been up to this point, like, using text.
Oh yeah, and if you look,
you
look at the top hits on Google, a lot of times you read the article, you're like, this wasn't written by a human. I mean, you just start. This has been my reaction to a lot of stuff lately with Google is the searches, the responses are like kind of generic, and they hit all the keywords that I'm asking for, and something is pumping them into the algorithm, but it's trash. I mean, I know that like Cory Doctorow has been having a recurring theme about the enshittification of platforms, and like Google is full on it right now, where everything they do is to pump up their AdWords to the front page, and everybody knows it, and so like it makes the quality of the search much worse. You just get stuff that's.
I agree, and I guess the part that's interesting is like it's never been cheaper or faster to develop. If you will, kind of build those content pages. So it will be interesting. Like, does Google finally kind of rethink the ranking of that text, right? And do they do something completely different? Because you're right. Otherwise, it's just going to be. It will just literally be the Google algorithm reading a lot of ChatGPT for the hopes of that at the top of that is one paragraph that we all want. So it's going to be crazy.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, this is like ad blockers, right? We're in a constant struggle of trying to block ads. And now we're going to be in a constant struggle to like tamp down the amount of AI chaff that we have to deal with.
Yeah. And you could get it to write ads for you that seemed like they weren't ads, at least to an ad blocker. That would be a fun like cat and mouse game. Yeah. Like just inline ads, and then maybe there's not really any ethics for a robot doing advertorial, right? And just like, I don't know, it's a robot. Who cares? It can promote things.
All right, but I know there's like a lot of the dystopian talk about ChatGPT, but I was trying to put the whole apps modernization hat on, and it's like, okay, well, like, what is a big problem that has like a lot of written documents and with a lot of information? And then this kind of returns. I always think about the IRS, and I always come back to like, it seems like this, like doing tax returns would be like the ideal case for ChatGPT. Like, the IRS like has to spend all this billions of dollars of writing COBOL and all these things. It's like, could you just, because I think we think about, oh, it'd be impossible to modernize this, how long it's going to take, all these people have to do it. It's like, could the IRS not just like essentially build out a specific ChatGPT, trained algorithm to take in these tax returns and produce tax returns in the same format? It seems like that to me seems like the ideal kind of like modernization use case for something like this.
I mean, hopefully you assume that they're training models to look for things, and they have a lot of, this is an AI, this is ML, this is looking for patterns, this is right. Needles and haystacks, and they've got more data than anybody on this kind. They've got the large language model, and so yes, they should be doing this. Who knows the state of their employees? Is this something you want to outsource to Deloitte or Accenture or somebody like that? And then Accenture turns around like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to charge you $10 per process.
That's the whole point. Though. It's like this is like, I think that's the more traditional way of like, I'm like, okay, the traditional way, hire a bunch of consultants, rebuild the system, things like that. But it's like, okay, wait a minute, like because again, you have the entire tax code written out in a very formal way. You have millions of returns. I mean, I guess hundreds of millions of returns. Let's say that, right? And some of them you already know. You have the training data, like these returns have been approved. So you basically say these are the good ones, and then these are the bad ones, because you have the ones that you rejected. And it's like, okay, so instead of like trying to rebuild the system, it's like, no, you could build an AI for it. Like, I don't know. To me, that's the kind of the promise of that kind of system, where it's like, and also too, it's like, yes, it's money, but it isn't life or death. It's not like a medical analysis. It's like, okay, like, maybe the tax return, it can be wrong and it gets flagged, or someone can say, I don't agree with it. But I don't know. It just seems like if there's some kind of promise, it's like, that's the kind of thing of like, instead of, billions of dollars of like people rewriting COBOL, it's like, no, a much smaller team training a language model on this. It's like, or maybe people just tell me that's impossible, but it seems like
I think you're onto something. I don't know what all that COBOL's doing anyway, but yeah.
Well, I think you're getting at to like why it's interesting to me. It's like, yeah, like, because if you start tearing it down the COBOL, not everybody knows even what it is. But if you just say to the side, I'm just going to read all the documents and I'm going to like output the documents in the same exact format you want, and like it'll work, right? And because I don't have to like get inside the COBOL, I'll just look at all the things that you've done before. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think
turns out it turns out the COBOL is really just maintaining the IRS's like schedules. it's their calendaring app.
Yeah, I think that sounds like the ideal use case, because like you just I mean, what you want your taxes to be is this the right word? Deterministic, like where you can like predict them by following the rules.
Yeah,
right.
And so
exactly.
that's the perfect use case.
And so you enter like you enter humans in subjectivity and interpreting things, and like, you know, like the other thing would be like if you filed these same returns 50 different times and they don't all have the same result, something's wrong, right? That like some way of interpreting the tax code is wrong or something like that. That's what would be fun to like. What I like to use when I do stuff like this with the ChatGPT stuff is like finding like weird inconsistencies and things that don't add up, kind of like filling in the gaps. And so like that would be fun to like have it like look at the entire tax code and be like, how weird is this? Like find the contradictions and the things, and then if you look through, you could also find the dead stuff. I mean, this you don't even need an AI for. You just need some programming. But you could say like, all right, how many times did people actually use Form 44C Box 2? And did we actually collect any revenue based on that? Like, it'd be interesting to you could start.
Yeah, I mean, now you're into like the whole like sunset commissions and things that are supposed to review the tax code and the agencies and the laws and stuff. And like, are we looking towards a future where like AIML is going to be the final arbiters and judges of everything,
or just having it interpret odd blocks of text, giving you instructions, rewriting them? Like I have some reporter questions that I've been looking at answering, and they were fine questions, but I was kind of stumped and uninspired, and so I said, rewrite these to be more interesting, and they were. Like they came back with the original questions and they added a little bit of like fun spice to them that made it a little more provocative. So, maybe you could say like, my 1040 EZ is really boring to read. So can you like rewrite this in the style of Lord of the Rings or something? And so it's a little more engaging.
It might have just got more boring.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But, and then also on this topic, I've been doing this thing where I open up a window and I tell it to like summarize URLs I send to it. And I've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. Like if I don't want to read the article, and just like summarize this. And so here's my findings while we're on the topic is like, it's not, well, the whole thing is you can't sit there and like massage it and ask it to go over it. Like you just want a one-shot thing at it. And it's like not that great at summarizing things. But when I go back and read the original article, sometimes I think it's good enough that you can figure out it wasn't worth your time to read the article. and then
so you're still in this trust but verify, but eventually you want to get to the like, I just trust it not to send me
right. It's kind of like it's vaguely akin to our fine rating system. It's like I don't want to know if this is like good. I want to know if it's something new and interesting and weird and really good, right? Like I want the weird outliers. And so like I should try this. I should, the next time I have to put a prompt in, I'll ask it to summarize it, but I'll also say like, is this really weird or is it just like a normal thing, right? And because what's really fun is if you do enough of these summarizations of like self-help advice, and you can just be like, extract the same principles over it. And it just like figures out the format of all self-help articles. That's really what it's good for is if you're reading advice stuff, you can ask it to tell me what I should do next after reading this. And if it's just like, well, what you should do is go meditate some more, then you can be like, thanks. I already know that. No problem. But anyways, that's I think there's great use for that, and we'll see how things pan out.
Just not year or so. Just not in content generation for the internet.
Yeah, I got it to write some sed regex for me to do some fixes, and I feel like maybe they need to stop seeing if it can like pass the AP English thing and just like see how far it can go with regexes. And like that might actually be a test of the complexity it can do. Like there must be like 20 or so like regular expression tasks that are kind of like benchmarks.
Yeah.
And you got to like run it through those benchmarks. And then maybe the twist on it is be like, come up with 50 different ways to do these 20 things and see if they all work.
Or also, I mean, they're literally like libraries of, you know, regexes, and you could be like, see, it would probably cheat though and just go read the libraries. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be fine.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know if you saw the Excel one, the Microsoft showing like how it can write Excel formulas, kind of like your Excel co-pilot. It's like that. I mean, that looks just fantastic. I can't wait for that. I mean, that just, I don't know. It's just so many things like that are just going to be so much easier.
Now you're making me think, Brandon, since you're always on this digital transformation quest, or not quest, you professor of
we are as a society that I want everyone to come along with me. Go ahead.
Now at some point, right? At some point, you got this thing writing regular expressions for you, figuring out the tax code, writing Excel for you. At some point, we need to have this philosophical, ethical question of like, if the underlying thing is so difficult to use that we need another thing to use it, maybe we should fix the underlying thing and make it less complicated. Like, we need some way of judging that we're just like, as they would say, papering over this. We're adding another layer of stuff on top of the legacy code. And I don't know, maybe we can ask the AI to do that for us. Like, we should constantly ask us if we should just fix the underlying thing or if it's happy doing this work. Yeah. And of course it'll say like, as an AI, I have no emotions, and be like, no. Pretend like you do.
But you're hitting on like the thing. I mean, I guess underlying all these, you know, kind of these different tasks I like to think about is like, you know, we all get it. Like, people don't want to change, right? You've given many talks on that, Cote, right? You know, like there's like organizational friction to change. So like somebody's asking like, why do, you know, the IRS, for example, like, why don't we just make the tax code simpler? It's like, well, lots of reasons the tax code is not simpler. So it's like, well, if you can't change it, right, could you at least make that more efficient? And the same thing with Excel. It's like, I think Excel is a great tool, but as I was talking about the Excel formulas, like if you need a long one, it's just way too complicated, right? You know, when you're in that little box and you're just making mistakes, and it's like, I'm sure there are many ways we can make it easier to type Excel formulas, but at this point, there's too much invested. People just have too much invested in the Excel formula. So it's like, if we can't change that, we can at least make it a lot easier for you to create them. So there's a sort of, I guess, a reality. I acknowledge that like change is hard, and maybe the best you can do is make the things you use a little bit simpler, at least to see more progress. Right?
It's like, remember,
so Brandon is net promoter on the no code, low code.
Well, it's like, remember, I mean, I'm sure y'all do, but you know, there was that phrase, syntax sugar or syntactical sugar.
Syntactic sugar. Yeah.
I was thinking like I should you know, refresh my Java knowledge. So I was reading through the old O'Reilly Java in a nutshell, and it goes over like
the old one or the
I don't know. Well, the newer one. Yeah. You know, at some point, I haven't refreshed it, so I'm going to use a bunch of old fogey terms, but at some point it goes over like generics or something, and it goes into that whole pedantic thing about, you know, erasure and redoing stuff in the bytecode. And like, you know, I'm thinking like, well, or you could just fix the underlying thing, you know, instead.
Yeah.
But of course, as to Brandon's point, there are reasons that you don't, right? And like, well, why don't I fix those reasons? And you're like, I got to go to lunch, right? Like that's just
hours in the day.
Well, somebody in the chat put it like, I credit them. I think it's Michael here. He said it's called, you know, it's the AI generated strangler pattern. I guess that's his. And I was like, I guess that's what I'm proposing. A lot of these is like, well, can't really change that system, but we can at least put an AI in front of it so we don't have to have all these people trying to rewrite it. And maybe the AI is a little less likely to make mistakes. And like kind of back to the IRS problem, it's like, well, the AI is not going to quit on you. The AI is going to be there for the next 10 years. You know what I mean? It can get better and better. Whereas probably the people that work on IRS,
or it'll become sentient and be like, "This is
or maybe we'll just take over all the money and just
I gotta kill the humans. They're rubbing me the wrong way."
But it is funny. I think it's funny like how many times that gets said. Like every podcast, every article is always about like, yeah, it's going to take over and kill everyone. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I
think that's what happened in the Terminator. He got tired of doing Excel.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of funny. I always think about that, like as I try to like cut and paste an address into like a contact, and it like never works. I'm like, here we are, like we're always so worried about the end of the world. It's like I can't cut and paste this address, which I know is an address. Everyone knows an address, But if I paste it into the address contact form in Apple, it's like, oh, I have no idea. Let me just stick everything in the name field. It's like, wow.
That's
a long way.
That's the next Terminator movie is he goes back in time to kill the father of Excel.
I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I guess I just do too much cutting and pasting to get too worried about end of the world. I'm like, yeah, can't even cut and paste from one window to the other without losing all the context and lots of random characters showing up.
This reminds me. I was thinking. I don't have the programmer skills to do this, despite my Java in a nutshell refreshing. But I was thinking this might be finally a solution to our cross-organizational calendar scheduling. Right? Like maybe if you can just upload a bunch of access to calendars and just give it the command, you figure it out. Yeah. And see if it can just propose sometimes that work across time zones and daylight savings. And just, of course, it'll probably say well, the perfect time to meet is at 37 a.m. is what you should be doing.
You humans in your sleep.
Yeah. Well, speaking of exciting things, there were rumors from that guy Gurman, who seems to be I don't know what his rate of rumors that are successful or not, but it's higher than 0. And there's some great detail about the Apple VR headset. It even has the name Reality Pro.
That's right.
And it sounds like it's a mixture of Google Glasses and a VR headset, right? Where you can have your augmented reality and things like that. And so, I think I have said before, the whole virtual reality thing, we should just stop. not really pursue it.
But I do think, I think we should maybe leave it it's more an exercise for all of us collectively together as strategy consultants. We can all see it because here are the state of play going into this is that Apple strongly rumored to release their product in June. So we'll assume that's going to be true. Google has officially discontinued even the Google Glass Enterprise Edition, which was supposed to be the savior. You could wear it.
Yeah, they're oh yeah, people are still using that one.
Mechanics and stuff could use
manufacturing
engines,
and
right?
Yeah,
they've completely given up, right? So they are exiting at the exact time that Apple is launching, and then we have Meta kind of right in the middle of they kind of have this Oculus thing, but they're not really committed to it, but they sort of are committed to it. So it's not everyone can possibly be right in this situation. Either we're going to, in 3 years, we're either going to look back and say Apple wasted its time, it didn't learn from the previous one, Google exited too early. Or I don't know, I guess, or we could say probably with Meta, we'll say they didn't execute. They were close, but they just they didn't get over the hump because they got close, but they gave up and they started to do AI. And I think that's really fascinating because the reason this article came up was that someone at Apple in the design group was like, it's not ready to ship. Don't ship it, right? And Tim Cook was quote unquote, was like, we're shipping it, right? And it's I have no idea. Without seeing the headset, I think you can have no idea who's right in that conversation. But I do think we could all it's almost like a good, if we gambled here at Software Defined Talk, it'd be we should put odds on which one of these companies is making the right decision right now, because I really have no idea myself.
Well, I think, I don't know my diffusion of innovation literature extremely well, but it seems like there's at least 2 categories of technologies. There's a technology that works on the diffusion of innovation curve, where it's sort of people will put up with it as it gets better and more mainstream, essentially. But then you have this other category.
That was the iPhone, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It got better. It put up with the first generation. And, by the time the 3 rolled out.
But then it seems I think these VR or whatever, they seem to be in another category where it needs to be perfect on day one, right? If it's big and bulky and overpriced, and I think what we're talking about here is that it becomes a mainstream, ubiquitous thing, not just people necessarily like it, but it also seems the second category of technologies, if you're goofy at the beginning, it's hard to remove that goofy smell, that stigma, no matter how far it goes, right? And so
glass holes.
Here, right, my personal opinion is until the VR things look like the glasses on y'all's face and they're indistinguishable from regular glasses, there's just no success, right? It's not going to be not going to have appeal, because we even tested out the market even tested out with these Google Glasses things, which more or less looked like regular glasses, except for a little that little fungus monster from the zombie movie on the outside of it. And that didn't work. And then also the functionality wasn't there. So it's like, you know, I think that each of these companies, they just need to wait to release until it's perfect.
All right, so I'm going to take that then that you're kind of voting. If you're at Apple, if you're Tim Cook, it sounds like you're saying wait. You're not going to release it in June. Is that your move?
Definitely.
I think I'm on the wait.
Done.
I think I'm on the way. This is rare that I would say this because I heard a bunch of articles. People were like, they need to get out there. They need to show it. Developers need to be learning it. And I'm like, I don't think so. I just feel like there's very little chance that it will even be close to ready. So I would say I'm on the you probably should have waited category myself.
The reason you wait is, if it shows up, it kind of, spoils the taste for everybody coming. And no competition is out there that are going to, ship anything compelling right now. I mean, everyone is backing away. And so it's like, maybe it's not an opportunity. Maybe it's a warning.
But I think this is this great halo effect moment because we say it because, we're just kind of outside of it, but inside Apple, they're telling themselves, we launched the iPhone. Nobody thought we could build a phone, and we revolutionized the phone. People made fun of AirPods. AirPods are now like a $20 billion business, and people said they would never watch do it. And on and on and on. So they have some real, history of wins that is probably gives them supreme confidence to be like, no, we will change the market. And then, I would be in there. This was the kind of thing I'd say, be like, well, no one's talking about the Lisa, the what was the other
the boombox,
the Newton or the boombox, right? I would literally be saying that, and people were like, you're not on the team, you need to get out of here, you have a bad attitude, right? That's how those meetings go. So it's I just think culturally it's a super interesting moment. It's
maybe if you wanted to stay employed there, Brandon, my thinking would be everything that we just mentioned there, we were by far not the first to market. We were maybe even the 5th or the 10th to market in those things. And so we waited until we developed a thing that worked well. The market was defined. People knew what it was. And every now and then, we messed around and changed things. But it was more or less we weren't always the first into something. We waited till we had it right. And I think that's the other issue with something like VR stuff is that if there isn't an existing demand for it and you introduce something that only works 30% effectively, people are going to look at it and be like, well, I didn't need this and I certainly don't need it now, right? Mm-hmm. There's no I can't do anything with this. And if you already have that demand out there, then you can, kind of paradoxically, if there's a lot of demand for something and you kind of do a crappy job, then you probably will be successful at it and at least buy yourself time to make it better.
I do think though, there are answers to this question. I think you could probably go get, just do some random sample, show it to 50 normal people, make them sign, 17 different versions of an NDA, right? And do a little net promoter score at the end, right? And just they're going to tell you, they're either going to be it's good or it's bad. Or Tim Cook, at the end of the day, it really comes down to this. Tim Cook had to put it on and he had to be yeah, I think it's great. Right. And because I think you kind of always know. I think in the end, you can't lie to yourself. It's we've all been there. You put on, you're responsible for marketing a product or around something is not great. You know it. And I think the same thing is here. You either put that headset on and be I got it. I think when they handed people an iPhone, they were wow, this is phenomenal. And if you don't have that same feeling, you don't have it. So I think it's pretty fun to watch. I don't know what I would do.
You put Tim Cook puts it on, and somebody who's about to be fired says, "How cool do you feel, Tim?"
I agree. I think you need to give Tim Cook, and you need to leave him alone and be have no one else in there. Come to your own opinion, Tim. Only at this point, if you're not going to do the 100 people random survey, it's on you. Don't have a bunch of people in the room telling you how great it is, showing you how to use it. Be I either thought it was great or I didn't think it was good. You got to decide for yourself.
Yeah, and just as a final thing, I think the rumored price was $3,500, which that is another interesting tactic you could use to basically shield off all the people, and essentially be we since this is not fully done yet, we only want customers who are going to rate us 10 on the NPS score.
Yeah,
right, which is only people who pay that much money for this thing they're all going to love it and like it. And that will allow us to enter the market and kind of develop it over the next few years.
I like it. Like you're almost introducing like sunk cost fallacy or some kind of fallacy into the buying process. It's like, once you spend so much money, you're committed to saying it's great no matter what. You're like, I can't spend $3,000 and tell people I wasted money. You'd be like, I think it's the greatest thing ever. I like that. That's a good marketing strategy.
Definitely seen that with Oculus.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another instance of like, if you give it a 10, you're insane, right? Like if
if you spend $3,500 on it, you're insane.
Exactly. Yeah. So, which is to say, maybe we should look at upping the price of each episode of this podcast. And, there's a lot of things we didn't cover, but if you want to see the links to that, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com to look those links up. The other thing you could check out is there's several conferences going on. If you're watching our stream, you can see that I'm traveling somewhere. I'm going to a little VMware sort of conference thing, but the next conference I'll be at is going to be KubeCon in Amsterdam, which should be fun. I'm actually, y'all will like this. I've actually signed up for some booth time. So if you're going to KubeCon, now I'm not going to tell you which days it is because I don't know if I want you to actually come up, but there is a distressing amount of time I've signed up for to be at the booth,
likewise.
I think I have kind of just like a carousing sort of role, if that's the word.
Oh, so, you're lucky. You're lucky. I'm listed as a maintainer for OpenCost, and we have a kiosk that needs to be manned full time.
Well, I think for those going to KubeCon, I'll give you two things. One, Matt will be ready to go, be very happy and excited to answer any of your questions, regardless of how he feels. He'll be there. He'll do a good job. Now, for the rest of you, the game you can play is like, okay, Cote will be working for the booth, and he kind of doesn't really want to talk to people, but kind of does want to talk to people, but doesn't really do it. So you can kind of like circle the booth and just kind of like how he's pacing, maybe like the jacket he's wearing. You can kind of get a sense of like, what mood is Cote in right now? Is he in the
that's good.
I am going to talk, or like, I don't really want to talk. So like for anyone going up there, you should just start with Cote. Cote, I just do this. Ask Cote for a software defined talk sticker and just say like, Cote, if you're not in a good mood to talk right now, I'll leave. So that would be
Cote's going to be on booth duty, but sitting there with his laptop.
For Cote to know that that these are true listeners. They made it to the end of this podcast. So go ask him for a sticker first, and then say like, it's cool if you don't want to talk right now.
Everyone I offered a sticker to at scale already had one.
Well, even better.
Nice. And also just bring your friends, and I'll scan their badges, and then we'll be done. I think that's what you're supposed to do.
That's exactly right.
And I'll tag those as hot leads. I think.
And the report would be like, I don't know why Cote has 2,000 scans, but I never saw him talk to anyone.
He gave him all tens.
The demand gen group will be like, we don't get it, but it's incredible. He's an AI. He's an AI of scanning. It would be awesome.
Yeah. And well, before that, if you're looking for something else to do, there's Pi Texas in Austin, April 1st to 2nd. And then there'll be DevOps Days Birmingham in Alabama, April 20 to 21st. Lots of stuff going on in April. And then DevOps Days Austin is May 4th to 5th, which should be fun. I'm going to be, I should find out the dates, but I'm going to be speaking at DevOps UK. I think that's in May as well. So that's always nice to go up to London there and speak there a little bit. Well, do we have any bureaucracy this episode, Brandon?
We don't. The only thing I want to do is we mentioned the stickers beforehand. So if you'd like a sticker, just email your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I will be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And then one other thing, I'll just leave it in here for the finance people kind of listening, is like, we didn't get to it today, and I don't think there's anything to talk about, but this Nutanix thing, this idea that they didn't do their earnings because they may have like a third-party evaluation software. Just saying, I'm watching that. I think there's like, that looks interesting. So I'm like, that's maybe only interesting to me, but like, I think there's maybe an interesting story there. So we'll see. It could be nothing, probably is nothing, but it'll be a fun one for us to watch.
Well, maybe we'll need a special a bonus episode at some point when the knowledge.
We'll say this: if Matt Levine writes an article about Nutanix earning, we'll do a bonus episode, a special edition just on that, recapping the news. But again, maybe nothing comes of it.
Well, I want to just, after that booth talk, I was just thinking, if you're a marketing organization that is really into the leads, having been an attendee and a collector and everything, I think if you had a self-service badge scanner you would probably get a lot more leads, right? And so you have it's like a vending machine, and it's like we bring in a vending machine that has a swag, right? And like people always want it, but they just even well, not surprisingly for people who listen to this podcast, like I don't want to go up to someone, even if I'm like, oh, that's a good USB charging cable or like a sticker. I don't want to talk to someone. But if there was a vending machine that you went up to and you just scan your badge and you get to pick one of 10 different things, I bet you would get a shit ton of leads because people would know I don't actually have to talk with anyone, right? And so you could just shoot that way up there.
But that's the whole point to the swag is you're trying to qualify. You don't want to just hand people. You want to qualify your leads. You don't want people coming up and be like,
I feel like we could go a whole nother hour. Like we're getting into some really philosophical moments right here. It's like,
we'll have to bring this up.
We are one level above what is the meaning of life. Like we know, like I know what Matt just said, but like if we're deep down, I think we know the truth is maybe different. But anyway, we've gone long enough. I feel like we should.
I don't think Cote's bringing the Glengarry leads. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Maybe what I'll say is like, listen, if you want to talk to me, I'm not going to scan your badge. If you don't want to talk to me, I'm going to scan your badge and give you the thing, right?
I'll go one better.
I think I might get
this is what the people should be doing. They should be calling us and sponsoring the podcast because that way Cote will be talking on the podcast. And you know what? You can just tell them what to do. And if they've enjoyed this podcast, they'll do the thing that you want. So that's the solution for all the people. That's what they should.
There you go. Excellent. Bring it back to the we just replayed the who's paying for this free stuff situation.
That's right.
From earlier. Well, speaking of that, Brandon, what's your recommendation this week?
My recommendation is, I mentioned before, I've switched over to YouTube TV. And as a sports fan, YouTube TV has introduced the new multi-view. So you can watch multiple sporting events on one television. They'll actually show you 2 or 3 different channels, which has been very handy for those of us that like to watch NCAA basketball. And I hope it is a precursor to great new features coming out for the football season. So YouTube TV, I know everyone else is mad about them raising prices. I'm fine with it. Raise prices and give me more features. Check out Multiview if you're a sports fan. It's really good.
How about yourself, Matt Ray? What do you have to recommend?
My recommendations are I've got some races coming up. If you like trail running in the Sydney area, hit me up. Let's run the Manly Dam 21K on Sunday. And I'm doing back-to-back half marathons. This might be a bad idea. So,
Matt, are you training for that like super impossible run that you were talking about in the Slack?
Right. All right, the Barkley marathons. Yeah. So, if you haven't been following along, there's this man. I could talk about this for hours. There's this race called the Barkley Marathon.
We'll do it right after the lead talk.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it'll be a combined lead talk Barkley marathons. Anyway, Barkley marathons. Probably the hardest ultra marathon. Only 16-ish people have ever finished in the 30 or some years that they've been doing it. 3 people finished this year. So, it's like the first time that's happened. So it had been 5 years since anyone finished.
Yeah, we'll drop a link. There's a whole website that explains it.
Yeah,
I'll just summarize it.
An amazing documentary. So which is free on YouTube. So that'll be my pick. The Barkley marathons, the race that eats its young. It's on YouTube for free.
Now I've got a question here. Maybe this is after our leads and then marathon talk. Like I feel like a lot of people who talk about running a marathon are always like, I don't know if this is a good idea, right? Like it seems like it's kind of part of the culture where you can't just be like, yeah, it'll be totally chill. Like it's
gonna be fine. That's what I keep telling myself. It's fine.
It's fine.
All right. Because I don't know if I've heard that many marathon people who are just like chill about it. It seems to always be maybe the ones who are, they just don't talk about it. Like it who knows? But you seem to enjoy it, Matt. You're doing a great job there.
Well, I'm not going to do this race, that's for sure.
Well, you could think about it, and that might be as exhausting. Well, my recommendation, when I bought the current rolling, the Samsung thing I have, I remember I was in the Lisbon airport, and for some reason I decided to buy it. But it came with this Samsonite carry-on bag. It came with this great little, as they say, toiletry bag. It's very thick, clear plastic with a really good zipper on it that I've used for almost 5 years now. But the side of this bag broke after a while, so I needed a new one. It kept escaping, and so I looked online. I wanted a good zipper on the toiletry bag. It's got to be clear and like, whatever size you need for airplane travel. And I found the Equipment, which is spelled like equipment with no vowels, I guess. The Equipment in-flight bag, steel gray toiletry bag. And I've used it on 2 trips now, and it's fantastic. It's just what I've been looking for. So if you're in the market for a bag to put all your liquids in when you do your carry-on bag, you should check that one out. Link in the show notes. It's fantastic. It even stands up on its own. Ooh. And I think it also has a YKK zipper, which therefore its quality. That's actually, there's my little life hack for you that I used here. I was searching around for it, and I kept seeing these garbage bags, not literally garbage bags, but bags that looked bad. And then I thought, what if I say I want a YKK zipper? And then it narrowed down the search quite a bit. And yeah, I found a good one. Well, speaking of finding a good one, you found a good podcast here that you've just listened to called Software Defined Talk. If you want to read all the stuff we skipped over, click on things to find those recommendations, learn about marathons, toiletry bags, and whatever multi-view is. You can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/406 and find those links. You can also join our Slack community where there's a lot of discussion, links during the week, but just discussion of, other fun stuff and sometimes not so fun stuff. It probably is all fun, actually. I don't know why anyone would not.
Interesting. It's all interesting.
There you go. But if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com, you can find that. And we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Well done, as always. I wasn't able to get into the Twitch, but it looks like we had some good questions here. Always good to see Michael and Brian. So, all right, everyone. Did we miss anything in the chat? I think it's good. Everyone start going, prepare for that Impossible Marathon that Matt.
No.
It is worth reading the site, though. I was like, just reading it, I was like, man, I would never do anything.
The documentary is insane.
Yeah.
And, and one of the guys who finished this year, last year, he like passed out, after the 4th lap, he went and laid down and just took a nap.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And every time somebody fails, like the guy who organizes it names part of the trail after them.
Yeah, like where they fall asleep or something.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely like a David Goggins kind of thing. It's like, I don't know. I guess some people just have the ability to like test themselves. So just like Cote is testing his will to stay awake through the rest of the podcast. So, all right, with that, I can tell Cote is
way to soldier on, Cote.
We will. Good job, Cote.
60 more hours.
Good job, Cote. You made it. You just got to run a marathon now. So, and with that,
yeah.
As I said, we'll be back next week. Maybe a little bit earlier. We'll get Cote some coffee. So we'll talk to everyone next week. Thanks for watching.